Now, what sort of drug testing is in place? Is it VADA or is it going to be UCAD only? Because I know that's what Joseph Parker was holding out for.
Obviously, we have UCAD testing. The fight's taking place in the UK, but VADA as well.
Oh,
VADA,
so it is VADA?
Yeah, VADA are testing the fight between the two.
So, can you talk to me a little bit about Filip Hrgović? Obviously, when you guys signed him, we got excited. Now we have a platform we can see him. His first fight was Greg Corbin, good opponent. Then you took him to Mexico. He fought Heredia.
I think it was an intriguing fight. Well, I think with Filip, he's had 9 fights. It's not like he's that far down the line in his career. But he had a good amateur career. You know, he was in the World Series of Boxing and all of that. But I think, again, he's one you've got to build properly. He's got a lot. He's got the talent. He's got the looks. He speaks well. And I don't think there's any need to overly rush him, especially in the heavyweight division where anything can happen.
But he's so highly ranked, so it's like sidestepping him.
Yeah, but it's also experience. So like the Heredia.
What do you gain from Heredia? I mean, I could see Corbin.
We didn't knock him out in 30 seconds.
But it's Heredia, you know what I mean? Like, wouldn't, I don't know, a Derek Chisora type be more of a learning experience?
At 9 fights in.
Brian Jennings.
At 9 fights in, I don't personally think that's the best fight for him.
So you don't regard Filip a better prospect than Joe Joyce?
Yeah, but it's also about growing them. So he hasn't been on our platform. We signed him 2 fights ago, as you say. Yep. Gregory Corbin, May 25th, on the Devin Haney undercard, and then Mario Heredia on the Mexico card. We've also got to build them at the same time. If we chuck them in all these fights, where are they going to go? Do you know?
I'm just trying to understand the thought process, because when you say you want to build them, wouldn't his name grow with an Arthur Spielka type? He's been knocked out. He's on his last leg, but he's a bigger name. He's been on TV than
But those
Heredia.
fights will come, I think. Those fights will come.
I'm just trying to understand how do you guys pay these people to be on DAZN? I mean, look at the fight. Again, no knock, and this is not like an interview where I'm trying to attack you, but if you check your Mexico card, Liam was in it. I mean, it was tune-ups.
But Liam was an exciting fight. You didn't find that fight exciting?
But it was still tune-ups where all the A-sides were supposed to win, but they weren't in with recognizable names that'll help build the profile.
Shakram Giasov fought Darlis Perez.
Excuse me?
Shakram Giasov, Darlis Perez?
No, Darlis Perez is a good name. You know, that was decent for him.
Estrada Beamon was an exciting fight.
It was, but Estrada's on the level that Beamon should have been a more recognizable name for him.
Well, it was, at the same time, it's about also delivering value and exciting fights. And I think the Mexico card, especially, was an exciting night of boxing. I understand, you know, but it's balancing it out, isn't it? It's balancing between chucking them in at the right time, in the right fights, and building their profile and building them up. So, you know, it's about getting it at the right time.
So in your opinion, you don't think, not necessarily the best, how do you build a prospect? Let me just ask you that instead of probing. How do you build a guy like Filip Hrgović? How do you get him to this level? Andy Ruiz, Anthony Joshua.
I think heavyweights is all about the knockouts, isn't it? It's the knockout show, building them up. It's like we did with Anthony Joshua as well. You know, he's come from 0 to unified world champion. Now it's about...
But you did Joshua different. If you think about it, at 14-0, he was already fighting the likes of Dillian White. And then he's fighting...
That was a great fight, but that was 14-0. 5 fights is a big difference, I think, in heavyweight division, in any division. I think 5 fights makes a huge difference, and stepping them up at the right time.
It does, but then if you compare Filip to Anthony didn't have the fast track that Filip did, right? Filip already fought Amir Mansour. He already fought Tom Little. He already fought Gregory Corbin. In his first 9 fights, he fought better opposition than Anthony Joshua. So one would assume that he would just have a faster route. To see the sidestep, you know, he's highly ranked in the WBC too. He won that I think it's an international WBC title, which put him up there. I think he's top 5 right now in the WBC. And I mean, Deontay Wilder's I guess, the end of that story in the WBC rankings.
We'll count Filip as an example. He'll fight later this year. The big thing for Filip was keeping him busy this year. He would have had 3 fights since he signed with us in May. He's going to fight later by the end of this year as well. So 3 fights, keep him active, build his name, build his profile. And I think...
Shannon breaks.
Oh, is that what it was? I don't know what that was. Well, he was having a coughing fit. You know, big thing for us is building his profile up and building him, you know. I don't think at that stage of his career he needs to be rush, especially in the heavyweight division. Because where does he leave himself then with fight? If he fights everyone now, then he fights Chisora, say, as you say, yeah, and he beats Chisora, for example. Who do you want him to fight next?
Parker.
Yeah,
Parker, Dillian White,
but Joseph
Rivas.
Parker's had 20 odd fights. He's a former WBO heavyweight champion of the world.
But
So it's like,
Philip has more experience, but it's cool. I mean, I get the thought process. So what's next with Hughie Fury? Because again, now that's kind of the exact opposite. Hughie signed with you, and then his first fight is Povetkin.
yeah, but Hughie had been in big fights before that. He'd fought Joseph Parker. He'd been
And
across and fought
Pulev.
Pulev. You know, so it's not like he's just come out of fighting some 6-rounders and gone, there you go, have Povetkin. He'd had the big fights. He wanted big fights. You know, as Peter Fury said, I want to chuck him straight into big fights. He's a fighter. He wants to do that. And there's no harm in losing to Alexander Povetkin. Again, we spoke about it before, I think sometimes there's too much of a pushback on people losing a fight. You know, this is the only sport where you lose and everyone's like, career's over.
Not Matchroom. I want to give you credit for that. I hope that you have a part in that. But we see, I like to use the word recycle. I hope it's not offensive to some fighters, but we see that Matchroom brings them back.
Yeah, but I think you should. I think if I still, Eric Chisora is a perfect example. Who lost against Ajit Kabayel and has come back with some of his best wins to date.
Yes.
You know, and he's an great.
What happened to how'd you lose him? He's
Kabayel.
top rank now.
He was just pulled out of the European purse bid for Joe Joyce.
But he wasn't with Matchroom? Everyone just assumed because he was AJ's sparring partner.
He boxed on that show, obviously, but he wasn't signed to Matchroom.
Oh, no interest then.
I think it just, you know, we've signed a lot of fighters recently, signed a lot of heavyweights, as you know, and it obviously made sense for him to go to top rank.
I'm bouncing everywhere because there's so much to talk about, but Callum Smith, Joe Gallagher, I know you've seen that interview. Shout out to Boxing Social, did a phenomenal job.
I didn't watch it because it was 51 minutes, and I don't really have 51 minutes.
Well, it started at the 13 mark for Callum. Basically, he's saying...
You've got a good memory.
Yes. Basically, he's saying that Dazn has a lot of money, and they're giving the likes of Golovkin and Daniel Jacobs and Canelo, bigger names than Callum, obviously, but they're giving him all these deals. Callum doesn't have a deal. He's fight by fight right now, and he just wants to know, like, where's the money? Why is he not being propelled as an opponent for a Gennady or a Canelo or a Jacobs?
He is.
He feels that, he says that you guys are telling him it doesn't have a big enough profile.
Yeah, but it's all part and part. You know, we've stuck with Callum. We've been with Callum since day one. They went into the World Boxing Super Series, won that, did a brilliant job. We have a great relationship with Callum Smith. We're seeing him, and I didn't watch the I got to be honest, because when I saw it was 51 minutes, I didn't have time to watch 51 minutes that day, so I can't really answer as to what he said exactly in that interview.
Well, he spoke about...
We want to make those fights.
He spoke about entertaining offers, though. He's saying that he has received offers from other big promoters, and, you know, Eddie has to step up. Obviously, there was some talk of Anfield. What exactly can possibly take place for Callum Smith in Anfield?
Definitely a fight that we can definitely do a fight next. You know, when the football season's over, May, June, July, around that period at Anfield, huge night.
With who? What type of opponent?
What's the names you just mentioned? You know, they're all there. There's all opportunities with all of them. You know, if the fights make sense, then they can happen. He's on the right with DAZN, with Sky Sports box office. He's on the right platform to make them happen on Sky Sports.
And until May, what does he do? Because he hasn't boxed since June 1st.
Yeah, well, look, we want to get him out in another fight later this year. But, you know, again, I won't go into too much detail as to what Joe said, because I don't know what he said. He's just, you know, Joe's doing his job, isn't it?
Now, Callum was on the undercard of AJ versus Ruiz in New York. Any thought maybe of him being back on the undercard in Saudi Arabia? Quick pan here to my friend Andy Ruiz, arriving with the Mexico sombrero. There you go, Manny Robles.
I think the job is now to put him on his own show.
Oh, okay, no more undercard, you know, even though this is so big?
Yeah, but I think sometimes it's beneficial for some fighters and not for others, you know, because sometimes they get lost amongst it, other times they do build their... So there's pluses and minuses. I think now is his time to get to build his name.
So if you can't get Gennady, which is a difficult task because he wants Canelo.
He's fighting October 12th as well.
Exactly. So he's out.
But when you look at there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different fights that can be made. You know, an opportunity can be there on the platform. So, we'll see what happens. I don't want to talk too much about it because, there's a lot going on. We're talking to Callum. We had a meeting with Callum. We saw him a couple of weeks ago when we were in Mexico. Liam was obviously fighting. So, we're working on it. And again, I don't know.
No fear of losing them to these alleged those offers they're entertaining. Obviously, PBC would want a Callum Smith on their side since they have some belts on that end.
But it's all well and good promising the world if you don't deliver. I can tell you're going to have 10 fights this year and you're going to make 500 million, mate. And if I don't deliver it, you only find out at the end, don't you? So, I think it's all well and good saying all these things. It doesn't always happen.
Well, all right, Frank, I want to thank you obviously for the time.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows, the list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.